welcome to the Healthy Living, Happy Life podcast. I'm Denise Stegall, your host. And today I am going to dive into a powerful, powerful principle that can transform how you approach your wellness journey. Progress over perfection. Yeah, I know you've heard it before many, many times. But as many times as you have heard it, are you still on the perfection train? Yeah, I know many of us still are. It's so easy to get caught up in the pursuit of perfection. I remember growing up, you always want to have perfect grades. You always want to, do all the things great. I wanted to be a great fencer. I wanted to be a great dancer, and not just an okay fencer or dancer or student. I wanted to be a great student. Part of it was, I didn't want to disappoint my parents, but I enjoyed the feeling when I was successful. And when I was younger, I was really incredibly successful with that. And so I think that's where I personally got this need for perpetual perfection. And in the area of health and wellness, it really does feel like a competition. Now, I was in competition, at that point in my life, but it really is it feels like there's this test that we're always trying to pass with flying colors, right? Unless you're in a competition, guess what? Life is not meant to be a competition in itself. There are aspects of life, but not life in general, right? So true wellness isn't about hitting that perfect score. Though I think sometimes when we have our cell phones and, we hit so many steps and we know what our VO2 max is. Yes, I do know what my VO2 max is. It's not about that, but it is about making consistent, intentional progress, right? So today we'll explore some of those small, steady steps that you can use to create change with your health and wellness, achieve a healthy lifestyle that's good for you, not anybody else. It's all about you, right? And truly to bring some self-compassion in it along the way to keep you motivated and feel balanced. So let's get started, right? Okay, so let's address that myth of perfection in wellness. We've all seen the images on magazines and on social media, people with flawless routines, flawless skin, amazing, bodies and intense workouts. You can, if you need a green smoothie recipe, there's like a million, trillion, zillion on Instagram or anything. And, these people seem to have bottomless energy, and we may not always feel that way. That's okay. It's great to get some inspiration from things like this, from these images or from from social media, but it can also lead to unrealistic expectations. We know our younger generation is struggling with some of this, but guess what? So are we, right? The more adult generation, those of us in our midlife, 45 to 65, and some people even older than that. But I think, I'm working with people 45 to 65. So these are the women that I'm talking to on a regular basis. Women just like you, right? Like life, your wellness journey is going to have some ups and downs. No one's perfect. No one gets it 100% right all of the time. Sometimes we have amazing days. I've had an amazing run yesterday. And I felt like, I was top of the world. Like, this is great. My time was good. I felt awesome. But you know what? Today, my run wasn't as good. I did a great run yesterday. My body was going, okay, yeah, we can, still run today. But, maybe we just didn't have the energy to put the same amount of effort into it. Right. And why? Did I get enough sleep last night? Yeah, I think I did. But I had other things going on, and this is life. We get busy with work. We get busy with our family. Sometimes we just feel tired, right? And so embracing this fact that doesn't need to be perfect is actually freeing. I'm free, right? This is going to sound corny, but I like to think of wellness as a staircase. Yes. Each step forward or up brings us closer to our goals, right? but there's no pressure to like run up the stairs and, or, can't get them 2 and 3 at a time, right? Progress isn't about perfection, being perfect every single day. It's about that consistency, moving or upward, moving forward. Even if some days it's one step at a time, one little slow step. And today on my treadmill, let me tell you, my 3 miles seemed like 6 miles because it seemed to take me that long. And you know what? The point was I did it. I set a goal for the week. And it's great. Now, if I don't meet that goal, I'm okay with that too. I know Thursday I've got a really busy day. So if I don't get, my run in and my weightlifting in on Thursday, okay, fine. Maybe I do it on Friday, right? Or I get a shorter version of it. Who knows, right? We'll see. I'll let you know. So why small steps matter? Okay. I really don't need to tell you this. We all know this, but it's important for us always to hear again and again and again, right? Because eventually you kind of go, yeah, I get it. Small, steady actions are the way to create lasting habits. Now, I do something every morning called a PQ rep with positive intelligence. It is a 3 minute, I don't want to call it a meditation, but it's 3 minutes of my setting my mindset straight. And I do that several times during the day too. 2, 3 minutes. That's it. That's it. 2, 3 minutes of the day. So like these little small habits are so helpful. And I feel like if I don't do them, oh, I forgot my habit. I mean, a habit is something that you just do because, it's part of your day, right? You don't get up and, walk out the door and forget to brush your teeth, right? Or for me, brush your hair, right? When you set realistic, manageable goals, you are building a foundation that will stand the test of time. I talk about longevity, and longevity is, yes, the length of life you live, but truly, it's the quality that's most important, right? The quality of life that you're living during the time that you are here on the planet. So, let me think. Let's say you want to start exercising more, right? Rather than jump into a 6 day a week program, what if you began with something more approachable, like, oh, I'll take a 15-minute walk 3 times a week, right? If you're already exercising and you want to up level your routine, that's great too. How about an extra 10 minutes, an extra 15 minutes? Or, maybe you do add an extra, an additional day, but you don't want to start and say, okay, I'm going to completely change my life and completely change my habits this week because I'm going to start something that is going to overwhelm me, right? You'll be much more successful if you start with smaller goals, build your confidence. While you're doing that, while you're building that confidence, you get much more motivated. And if you're motivated, you're going to want to do more. You're going to feel good, right? So small steps are more achievable. They're also more sustainable. Again, longevity, long term, right? We also, when we try to make all these big changes at once, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, like on day one, leading to burnout. And honestly, most people just give up. Why do you think all of us have tried like 20 diets in our lifetime, right? They're hard. You're giving up too much at one time, and it's just overwhelming. Small steps, you're building habits that you can maintain long term. And each one of those is a victory, no matter how small. I always talk about the wins with my clients. And those victories fuels that next one. So again, progress over perfection, right? It's kind of like watering a plant. You don't want to drown the plant with, like a gallon of water one day and then leave it. But, it needs to be watered a couple of times a week, depending on the plant, in order for it to grow. Otherwise, if you just dump, you'll drown the poor thing. And I think I talked about progress over perfection a little bit in the last episode. So if you didn't catch that one, please do go check out the episode before this one. Let me think. One of the most important elements when we focus on progress rather than perfection, is practicing self-compassion. Now, I know I've talked about this before, but I want to focus on this a little bit here. Often we are our own worst critics. Often, okay, most of the time, we are our own worst critics, right? You miss a workout, you skip out on a healthy meal, eat something that you're not supposed to. Let me reel that back in. You eat something that is not as healthy as you would have liked, right? These things happen. You don't get enough sleep. It's easy to feel like you failed, especially when it comes to diet, because we are so stuck in diet mentality in the US. And I believe even in Canada, I've talked to friends up in there too. We're just such a diet. We have stuck in this diet mentality, and it's not about dieting. It's about what you eat. It's the healthy foods that you eat, right? Um, but again, wellness is not about never slipping up or, falling off the wagon, give it a name, right? But it is about how you respond to it when things don't go quite as planned. So I want to share a story about a client of mine. Um, Her name is Mary Jo, and she struggled with this issue her whole life. She was what my mom would call an overachiever, a high achiever. And that drive basically showed up everywhere in her life from the time she was in junior high school. It was her work life, it was her home life, and of course her nutrition and workout routine, right? She was meticulous about following everything to the T, whether it was a new diet or I hate to say diet, but a nutrition program that she was following, or a yoga routine or a workout routine. She followed each regimen so meticulously, and she followed every new trend that there was out there. And she was able to do this for years, right? Just push, push, push. And she really felt like, she was on top of the world. She had this perfect lifestyle. She'd figured it out. But over time, instead of feeling healthier, she started to feel constantly exhausted, had trouble sleeping, and she even started to feel anxious. Now, whether that was part of sleeping, who knows? But this was new for her. Like, she never felt like this before. Yes, of course, at some point in time, the doctor said, "Oh, it's just, you're going through that time in life. It's just a phase. You'll be fine." But eventually, she poo-pooed that because she's like, no, this is more than, just just natural. Something's really going on here. And she actually ended up getting diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. And for those of you who aren't familiar with adrenal fatigue, it is a condition that occurs when your adrenal glands, which help regulate your body's stress response, become overworked. So in cases of chronic stress, especially from constantly striving for perfection, your adrenal glands can basically, they just can't keep up. And that's what leads to the symptoms of insomnia, which Mary Jo was struggling from, fatigue, low blood pressure, really body aches, and a weakened immune system. Whenever we're not sleeping, our immune system like goes in the tank. If your immune system is lower, you're more susceptible to getting anything that's out there, whether it's the flu or the common cold or whatever it may be. So basically, it's your body's way of telling you, I can't keep up at this pace anymore. Slow down, chill out, right? So Mary Jo's drive literally exhausted her. Again, when she was younger, she seemed to be doing okay. But over time, her body basically was just running on empty, and she realized that she needed to do something a little different. She needed a new approach. So together, we worked on shifting her mindset from that all or nothing mentality, right? Perfection. One that really then valued the concept of progress over perfection, right? She still struggles to this day, with certain things like she wants things to be perfect. And she has to step back and remember, she is in control of certain things. The world is not perfect. We are not perfect. We are not meant to be perfect, and to be okay with that. But of course, we set some small achievable goals focused on her self-care. Rest. These were two of the most important pieces because she was already eating well, we kind of loosened up the constraints there. She changed her workout routines, and eventually she started to improve. She was getting more sleep, and she really grasped the concept of progress over perfection. And what I think was the most important was she realized that it wasn't about giving up, but it was redefining what it meant to her to live a healthy, happy lifestyle without sacrificing, her well-being or, her goals, right? So she was still setting goals. They were just different goals at this point. And I think one of the biggest breakthroughs she had was learning to be kind to herself. Remember, I mentioned before self-compassion. Um, and to figure herself on days that things just didn't go the way she wanted. Um, and again, to celebrate the little things. One of the people that I follow, Brian Johnson, he talked about the plus ones. Like these are just little things that, during the day, you drank water over a can of soda, right? That's a plus one. All those little things lead to big changes, right? So obviously it helped her recover, and she felt more balanced. And again, she sees progress every day where she didn't feel like she actually felt that she was felt that before, because she always had this big hairy goal in her mind and didn't really pay attention to those little things. So yes, celebrating your wins, however small, is crucial to staying motivated. And if we're not motivated, we're not going to do anything, right? That's why we give up. That's why we stop dieting. That's why we stop doing crazy exercise routines. When we focus solely on what we haven't yet achieved, it's easy to lose steam, right? So when you acknowledge those little successes, like I said, whether it's drinking more water, cooking at home rather than going out, or going for a walk outside, as opposed to sitting in front of the television, you're creating a positive reinforcement, right? So let's take a minute to think about something that you've done recently to support your wellness. Maybe, as I said before, did you swap out a can of soda for more water? I'm actually drinking water in a really weird blue cup. That's a big deal. The water, not the blue cup. That's a plus one. That's a win. I'm gonna have a sip of water with you. So as I just did, pause and acknowledge it. Whatever that little thing is, pause and acknowledge it. It takes 3 seconds. No, probably even takes 1 second, right? But each of these actions matters to and does deserve some recognition, right? When you celebrate these little wins, it doesn't mean you're ignoring areas that you want to improve, right? Because that's the point. You want to improve, you want progress in these other areas. So it just means you give yourself a little bit of grace, and shows that you're putting effort into it. It shows you that you're putting some effort in, right? So if it helps, keep a journal. I think it's always important for us to keep a journal. I write in my journal sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, just depends. Sometimes I do both. But I like to write down my wins. Sometimes if something really special has happened, I'll just jot it down and bring it upstairs and put it in my journal, because it's kind of fun when you go back at the end of the week, oh, look at all these great things that have happened that I've done, right? So it's important to stay focused, rather than focused on growth rather than the outcome. We're such an outcomes based society, right? Weight loss. I'm going to be able to lift 250 pounds above my head. I'm never going to lift 250 pounds over my head. I don't know why I thought of that. But sometimes, we kind of focus on these numbers rather than the actual journey. A friend of mine said to me one time, and I'll never forget this, and I repeat this to my clients all the time: enjoy the journey, right? Wellness is not a destination. It's a continuous path of growth and discovery, and sometimes rediscovery. So instead of getting stuck in the specific metrics, not methods, metrics, think about how you are growing. Now, granted, if your doctor says to you, you need to lose weight because you're unhealthy and this is something that is detrimental to your health, yes, then we need to take a little bit more, we need to pay a little bit more attention. But if you're so focused on the numbers, right? And 2 days you don't lose any weight. Oh my gosh, you're failing. No, you're not. Right. So instead of looking at those numbers, let's look at the overall journey and give yourself time. Again, it's not about, yes, we want to reach a goal, but it's not we don't need to stress to get there. If we're doing these, setting small goals and doing these habits, small habits, making these small changes, you're going to get there. Right. So, mhm, mhm. I know when I'm more mindful about what I eat, and I'm usually pretty good. I'm one of these people, yes, because I'm a coach. I plan what we're going to eat a week ahead of time before I go food shopping. This is important. I feel much more in tune with my body when I do. So, are you making decisions that align with your desires, dreams, and values? Sometimes we forget what that is or what those are. And so shifting your mind or shift will keep your wellness journey more enjoyable and fulfilling. So yes, instead of getting stuck on the numbers, right? I hate stepping on the scale. I do it every now and then, but just to keep track of where I am, right? I don't need to do it every day. And this was a big mindset shift for me. And guess what? Life is much more enjoyable. It's much more fulfilling because I like to do the things that I do, whether it's exercise, meditation, yoga, whatever I'm doing. Um, Success isn't measured only by reaching your final goal. It's all of those little steps, right? All those little wins that I mentioned along the way. So, yes, I realize that sometimes it can be really challenging to do this on your own, facing progress over perfection when we feel like we're getting pulled in so many directions. I mean, I always feel like I'm getting pulled in a million directions some days. But this is where having a coach by your side may be invaluable. Um, I can help you to create realistic goals, break them down into manageable steps, and keep you accountable without judgment. This is a nice thing about working with a coach. So, if you are interested in having some guidance here, I am here. You can find my contact information in the show notes. But before we wrap up, I do want to just kind of recap. Wellness is not about being perfect. It's about making progress. I know I keep saying that, but it's so true. One small step at a time. Each step forward, no matter how tiny, remember those plus ones I mentioned? Thank you, Brian Johnson. Is truly a victory. And you don't have to get everything right. You're not supposed to be perfect. Life is a little bit of trial and error, right? Um, when we're growing up, we seem to be much more okay with trying things. And if we liked it, great. If we didn't, okay, then fine, we'll try something else. We need to, as adults, it's really okay to try something. If it works, if we appreciate it, if it aligns with us, great. If it doesn't, try something else, right? So you don't have to get everything right. Okay. Just keep going. So let's commit today to choosing progress over perfection and celebrate the wins, practice self-compassion along the way, stay focused, and you will be on your path to a healthy, happy life, the healthiest, happiest version of you. And really, that's the goal here. It's living a wonderful life with energy and vitality and fulfillment, quality of life for the time that we are here on this planet. So, if you're ready to get some support on your journey, I am honored to help you. Truly, truly, I am. Schedule a free call with me and we'll discuss your goals and go from there, right? Check out my website, book a call there on the website. You can also go email me at support@livinghealthylist.com. And I want to thank you for tuning in. Remember today, progress over perfection is key for lasting, fulfilling wellness journey. I always leave you with this because we are looking for a healthy living, happy life. So I leave you with that. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for listening. Bye, everyone.